cosmos, a woman transcends amongst multifaceted kaleidoscopes, amongst 10,000 ancestral vibrations.
What is a woman?
Man, we all know what a woman is. A woman is
What is a woman?
a woman is an adult female with almost always 2 X chromosomes. Brother man,
You
and
more
youngin, you a
sellout.
sellout.
I'm a straight Democrat, but I'm for the best person.
Oh, yes,
But
sir.
now, why you got Donald Trump?
Because I paid attention in school when I was a kid. I know the true history of both the Republican and Democratic Party. I know that they really didn't switch.
Duh.
During the Nixon Southern strategy, that one became more clever than the other in dealing with black people. We the Democrats, we were the Republicans' friends. We was their friends, but we were the Democrats.
Her head explodes.
How many refugees has Poland taken?
0.
And you're proud of that?
If you are asking me, if you're asking me about Muslims illegal immigration, none, not even one will come to Poland. Not even one if it's illegal. We took over 2 million Ukrainians who are working, who are peaceful in Poland. We will not receive even one Muslim because this is what we promised.
But I asked
This
not
quota
about
system
illegal
failed.
immigrants. I asked about refugees. And Jean-Claude Juncker, the Commission president, says that you're racist. You sound proud of the fact that you haven't taken any refugees.
But this is why Poland is so safe. This is the reason why we have not even one terrorist attack. Look at the streets in Poland. And we can be called populists, nationalists, racists. I don't care.
Well, that clears that up.
In phases 1, 2, and 3, they did what no other studio could do. That every time a new Marvel movie was coming out, we all expected it to be great. We would go into the theaters not wondering if it would be great. We used to go into the theaters expecting like it was magic. And since Endgame, that magic is gone. We've gone from expecting it would be great to hoping it'll be good.
Who's racist? Trump. Now tell me what makes him racist.
The fact that he called for the public execution of the 5 Central Park motherfuckers even before they went to trial.
Let's say your daughter gets raped.
I'm looking to kill a motherfucker.
Let's say your daughter gets raped, right? Now, I happen to be in the area because I was wilding, I was robbing people, harassing people. Your daughter gets raped, she's beat so bad that she can't even remember what happened.
Can't even function.
Police arrest me for being in the area, and I admit to doing that to your daughter, right? How would you feel? How would you feel? Answer the question. How would you feel? How would you feel? What did you say right before, just now? Right before I let you finish. What you was No, you said you want to kill a motherfucker.
Right.
Is that what you said?
Right.
Yo, if you admit to raping somebody, whether you did it or not, you should never admit it. And the fact that you did is okay for me to feel like that. Now, you can say Trump is insensitive for not apologizing after finding out that they didn't rape him. But at that moment, he had all right to feel like that. Just like you feel the same way.
She was stunned.
Why did you argue that religious services, religious people pose a greater risk of infection than people gathered to argue for defunding the police?
The policies restricted all types of activity in the district.
All types of activity in the district?
Yes, Senator.
Did it restrict mass protests in the district?
I don't believe it said anything one way or another.
Of course it did, because it didn't accept mass protests. If you want to come and protest, defund the police, if you want to support that, that's fine. You can gather en masse, person to person, close up, thousands of people. That's okay. You know the facts. You were a good lawyer. Why'd you lose?
Senator.
Oh, come on, Judge. Don't make me do this. Mayor Bowser was going to mass protests herself.
All right, how's everybody doing tonight?
Thousands of people. At the same time she was doing that, she was prohibiting churches from gathering socially distanced outside wearing masks.
This is episode 9 for me.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, 2 friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and...
So one thing we're going to do tonight, guys, is we're going to go over this particular week that we've had. It's been pretty interesting. This is the Conservative Take. My name is Kyle Suggs, and we're going to be talking about some interesting headline that happened today with NATO and what NATO's been doing to try and basically they're basically trying to compensate for America. So that's our headline here. So the situation here is Europe is preparing to replace the United States with NATO. And They literally put people who were friendly to the studios into this. And so they really actually had people who were the actual shills of the Hollywood red carpet come into their own premiere and tell them that this was a good film, because they were so afraid that these numbers would come out and totally shatter the perception that they were just going to have to figure out a way to minimize the losses as best they can. So let me go through this again, because I think my audio was jumped out there for a second. So I'll do it again just for people who haven't heard everything I said. But this spreadsheet here is a spreadsheet for box office and tracking our profits. And this is something that we've done for several years now. And so what we do essentially is we tell you the name of the studio. And right now we filtered it down just to Disney, because Disney is the one that's doing the most damage in the woke category. And we give the release date. We give the domestic gross as of today, the international gross, and the gross that it makes in China, because China calculates their values differently than other countries. China has their own rules. And so this spreadsheet, if you think of it as, this spreadsheet is going to tell us, does the studio make money? And that's really what this is all about. Because if the studio doesn't make money, then they're the ones that are going to be suffering. The actors are going to make money. The advertisers are going to make the money. The caterers and all the various people within the production, they're going to get paid. That's just how it is. But does the studio make money? And if the studio does not make money, then it comes to a question of, are we going to be able to continue to make these kinds of movies? So I want to create a spreadsheet that will let us see and know whether or not studios are going to figure out that if you go woke, you're going to go broke. And so they can't just keep losing money. So right now, as of right now, just to give a quick spoiler, of the films that Disney put out in the past 2 to 3 years, right now they're at a net loss of about $1.4 billion loss. The only film that Disney's put out in the past 2 years that's made any money is going to be Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. And that came out ahead by about $21 million. Every other film right now is underwater by a lot. Now, I did not do Captain America: Brave New World. I didn't do that. But I did do Snow White. And the last time I did this was actually in the Marvels, which is back in 2023. And because at that point in time, I just stopped counting it. But I know that movies like, do I have Indiana Jones? Indiana Jones 5 was horrible there. I mean, that ended up losing $234 million. Losing $234 million. Now, again, Harrison Ford, he got paid. No problem there for him. But there's got to be an incentive for the studios to make better movies, because they don't want to lose this kind of money. And especially when it does that, it also affects the parks, because the parks, Walt Disney World, Walt Disneyland, and such, Star Wars Galaxy World, or wherever they call it now, all that matters because people see the films and they want to go live out that fantasy in the parks. But if the films are no longer any good, there's no need to go out and live out the fantasy in the parks, and the parks go down. And the parks are actually the highest profit maker for Disney. And so it's one thing to have the movies go down, but for the parks to have low revenue stream as well, that is even worse, because for many films and for many of Disney's financial low spots, the parks help to subsidize and balance off and help keep the company afloat. And so take a look at here at Snow White. it released on the 21st of March. It grows right now, as of right now, $42 million. The international gross is about $44 million. The China gross is about $883,000. And I'll explain what this means in a second. But we do factor in international minus China gross because China and every other country in the world are factored out differently. And so we have to net it out because otherwise it wouldn't, the math wouldn't be right. And it would be skewed in a huge direction. So we have to make sure we factor that out and make it a separate indicator here. So the total gross would be $86 million total. But then when you take production costs, this column right here, column I, what's official is $270 million in production costs. But then I said, you know what? I know this has a lot of reshoots because the whole things with the dwarfs that were redone because the dwarfs were Peter Dinklage didn't like them, and he actually essentially had the dwarfs be fired, and because he said essentially in the promo shot that came out a few years ago that it was an insult to people of small stature, dwarfism, and it's a PR disaster, and Disney jettisoned the whole notion of having live actors who are small people. And then they replaced them with horrible looking CGI elves, which just look by 2025 standards are horrendous. I mean, the Polar Express was done, well, I don't know, about 15 years ago. That looks better than what we see here in this film. And for a film that costs this much for a flagship motion picture such as this, which is the IP that launched all of Disney, deserves much better. Much better. And so with that, you factor in 270 with the production reshoots at a moderate level of reshoots. I looked it up. The range is 10 to 20% in terms of a moderate reshoot for a film. So I took that in half and said 15%. And then that factored in on top of that. That's where you get your 310 total production costs. And then we have what we call the global print ads cost, which essentially is marketing, TV ads, internet ads, influencer payoffs, what have you, commercials, whatever they do, trailers, all that costs money. And $150 million is a pretty reasonable assessment for a film that they try to push this much. Now, in reality, it really could go down to thinking about now, I'm going to be generous here and bring it down to $100 million, just to be kind. Because they did scale down a lot of the stuff in the beginning because with the red carpet, they scaled that down. They called in less influencers, only influencers, like I said before, who were favorable to Disney. And they also limited the junkets that were going on because they're trying to downplay this whole thing because they felt it would be a disaster. So if I were to be even more kind than that, so let's go down to something like 65,000 as I'm thinking about it, just to be utterly fair here. $65 million was what Haunted Mansion was estimated as, and Strange World, same as that. So I'm taking it down way low just to be fair, that the production costs are at 310 and the global costs are 65 million. And so with those numbers in place, the total rentals, which is, by the way, which is something I need to explain here, rentals are what have to go back to the actual theaters, and the rest of that goes back to the company or the studio. So rentals are dealing with what the movie theater gets and versus what the studio gets. So when a film is done domestically, the studio gets more money for that film. The studio gets about 45% of the film. So 45 cents on the dollar goes to the studio. So if I have a movie theater, I own a movie theater, and Snow White comes to my particular theater, and let's say I have 100 guests paying $1 each, I get to keep $45. Disney gets $65. So that's the ratio here. So you see 55% here for D2 in the formula right here. And for international, which is G2, if it goes out to Germany, if it goes out to Spain, Italy, anywhere else, those countries keep 67%. Is that right? No, 57%. And the studio gets 43%. All right. And for China, China actually keeps 75% of the money, and the studio only gets 25%. That's why China releases aren't as a big a deal as people think. And in fact, the studio is losing money putting it out in China. I guess they're hedging and hoping in the future that they could get a better deal in the future. But right now, that's highway robbery, if you ask me. So, like I said before, so of this $883,000, China keeps 75% of that, and Disney gets the 25% of that, which is absolutely ridiculous. I don't know how they get away with that, but they do. And so you factor all this stuff in, the total rentals, the total cost, and now we have this column here, is it profitable? And before I had the print ad cost at $150 million, I dropped it down roughly half. So that means that right now, Snow White, by my estimation, is underwater by about $333 million. And so what would it take for this film to break even? Well, to do that, you can't just add $333 million to it, because you still have the other things to deal with in terms of the rentals and the actual, well, mainly the rentals, because that's a percentage of that. So if we were to say at 42 million right now, if we were to add, let's say, another $300 million to this, let's just keep it right now. Let's just add 300 million to it. Let's add 3 to that. And now we're at 342 million. Look at this. It's still underwater by 168 million. Now, it all depends on where the money is coming from. If it's coming from China, it's even worse. So I'm putting it into domestic. If it came from one of these two, it's even worse because it's going to go down further. Domestic is the best case scenario. So yeah, so it's going to have to gain. I think I said somewhere $800 million or $900 million. So let's try that. So now we're looking at, so essentially it's going to have to make anywhere from $800 to $900 million to make a profit based on what's going on here. I think they were hoping that this film would make closer to $1 billion. And if it did that, then obviously that would be good for them. $1 billion would be a hefty profit for them, but it's not going to do that. So this film basically has to make $1 billion for the studio to be happy. Otherwise, it's going to be horrible. And the $43 million that it made in the initial weekend is only going to get worse and worse and worse. So you guys tell me what you guys think about that. Let me see here. Yep. Yeah. I believe I got that fixed. The audio should be good now, I hope. All right, so let's do something else here. Let's go to the next topic here. Let's talk about what's going on with Trump right now with the economy, because what's happening now is pretty cool. Now, as before, we were talking a little bit about how the Trump tariffs were causing a lot of issues with the media because they didn't quite fully understand it. But then when we looked at the actual numbers from the speech that he gave a few weeks ago, the joint session of Congress, how 73% of the audience actually agreed with his stance on tariffs. I think what people were understanding, the way Trump was articulating it, was that it's about fairness. And one thing about Trump that I like a lot is that he's able to say things in a very matter-of-fact, layman style, very understandable way that the average person can actually grasp and understand what he's trying to say. There's no nuance in his delivery. There's nothing like a Barack Obama. There's nothing like a polished politician in general, or a Bill Clinton. Perfect example there. But Clinton could at least relate to people pretty well. But he wasn't like an Al Gore, right? Al Gore is just a kind of guy who it's like talking to a brick wall. You have no idea what he's talking about. And he comes across as aloof and someone that you can't trust, and someone who is not authentic. The more authentic you can come across, I think the better off you are with people. They trust you more, especially if you say things off the cuff, because they feel like, well, if you can say that now, you'll tell us the truth when it matters, because you tell the truth, just stuff that's going on behind the scenes, you'll say it, and stuff you say in a delivered speech, you'll say it, and because you're truthful behind the scenes, we trust you when you're in front of the scenes and talking to us in a measured speech. And so what I'm saying here quickly is that the Trump estimates of $4 trillion worth of companies are moving back to the United States is a huge deal. The fact that he estimates $4 trillion worth of companies are moving back is a huge deal. And why are they coming back? It's because of the Trump tariffs. It's because people do not want to pay those tariffs. And I think as people are seeing this come to fruition, pretty much within 8 weeks of him being in office, then I think it's going to start ramming home the concept of what he was saying is actually truthful, and they're seeing immediate results from it. So here, this is in Breitbart, and I'm going to play this clip here. This is from a cabinet meeting. It says here above this that President Donald Trump estimated that his administration has already identified maybe $4 trillion worth of companies moving back or going to move back to the United States thanks to his tariff policies. So let's take a look at this clip here.
We had a very, very good cabinet meeting. We're on our way to some tremendous numbers. I think, first of all, many companies are now moving into the United States. They're coming back. Some of them left us from many years ago, decades ago, and they're all coming back. We have probably identified maybe $4 trillion worth of companies moving back or going to move back. Many of them have announced it's going to be tremendous jobs, high-paying jobs too. And you probably know the chip business, not because of the CHIPS Act, which was a disaster. You gave billions of dollars to companies that already have many billions of dollars. They said, thank you very much. It was no incentive for them to use it. But what is good is the tariffs will make it so that they want to come back. That's why they're coming back. I think they're coming back because of the election that took place on November 5th and because of the fact that they have to come back because the tariffs are forcing them to come back. And remember, there are no tariffs if you build here, and that's a big factor. So we have record numbers. Howard was just telling me the numbers that we're talking about are crazy, beyond anybody's wildest expectation. So they'll be doing a lot of building, all sorts of businesses, including the basics of automobiles. We have, as you know, Indiana's Honda is coming in with a massive plant to Indiana, but there are many plants that are happening, and literally some are started already. General Motors is already redoing plants that were half abandoned, or they have plants that weren't being fully utilized. They're going to be, they and others are going to be making parts and other things in those plants so that it's one-stop shopping finally. It's ridiculous. You had to go to Mexico. You had to go to Canada. A car went all over the place. It was like, I don't know how that would have worked, but that's the way it sort of ended up. We had a deal, and we have a deal, which is fine, but people took advantage of the deal. They cheated. And when you cheat, the deals are unfortunate. But now what's happening is the numbers are beyond our wildest expectations.
So $4 trillion worth of companies moving back to this country. Now, right now, the deficit, I believe, we're running at a $2 trillion deficit. And I'm going to show you the article that we did a few weeks ago about how we can have a surplus, $1 trillion surplus, in about 10 years. I think it's worth going over that again, because I don't think we factored in a $4 trillion repatriation of money is coming back to our country from manufacturing and all of that. Just today, in fact, I saw that the housing market is coming up. New home construction is the highest it's been in 3 months, and that's only going to go up. So if housing is going to go up in terms of new housing, if new housing is going up, that means we have lumber, material, general contractors, plumbing, electricians, roofers, the whole gamut of blue collar work there involved in new home construction. All of a sudden you see Home Depot, Lowe's, and mom and pop shops, Ace Hardwares, all over this country ramping up more because people are trying to either build a house, obviously, repair the house to sell it, a new house because they want to build something else, or they want to fill the house with stuff. So in the 90s, when the housing market was booming, when Bill Clinton, basically with the Republican-led Congress, they did the welfare reform, and then, of course, the contract with America, and then, of course, there was an internet bubble that happened, but nonetheless, there was a housing market spurge that was just going through the roof. But, of course, we had the subprime mortgages, which led to a disaster. I know this. However, never mind that part of it, but the actual process of new home construction, to me, is always indication of a thriving market. Now, if you buy old homes, that may not be that big of an indicator, but new home constructions for sure. Because I remember when just a few years back, when Biden came in, lumber was ridiculously high. It was just ridiculous high in terms of getting lumber. You had to have wood to build houses in most parts of this country. So obviously something's working. So that's what I'm hoping to see here. And the point I'm trying to get here is that Trump is hitting this economy thing, not just one angle, not just two angles, but every single angle he possibly can. Hitting it with regulations, hitting it with saving money, hitting it with bringing down fuel costs. That's the big one, energy costs. Also bringing in new companies or old companies, for that matter, into our country so that they can build here to avoid the tariffs. Having tariffs, that's another way of doing it. Bringing money in as well, and also bringing in money from this gold card where a company has to pay $5 million for this particular person to come in to work for them, which means this person is like a high draft pick. This person has serious skills, and otherwise a company wouldn't pay $5 million. And if enough of those get sold, then all of a sudden we're talking about our deficit going down to zero really quickly. That in and of itself. I'll show you those numbers here in a little bit. So let's get going here. This is from Breitbart again. So here's a quote here from, I think where I saw that from Trump. We won't do that again. The president stressed that domestically produced goods do not face tariffs, as I just mentioned, which is an incentive for companies to manufacture in the U.S. Honda's coming in with a massive plant to India, but there are plants that are happening and literally have started already. General Motors, Hyundai, Audi, I believe I saw is coming in. Oh, Hyundai too, yeah. So Hyundai and Audi are coming in. Rapid Response here has this clip that I'm going to play right here.
Today, we're delighted to report that Hyundai is announcing a major $5.8 billion investment in American manufacturing. In particular, Hyundai will be building a brand new steel plant in Louisiana, which will produce more than 2.7 million metric tons of steel a year, creating more than 1,400 jobs for American steelworkers. And then there'll be major expansion after that. This will be Hyundai's first ever steel mill in the United States, one of the largest companies in the world, by the way, supplying steel for its auto parts and auto plants in Alabama and Georgia, which will soon produce more than 1 million American-made cars every single year. The cars are coming into this country at levels never seen before. Get ready. This investment is a clear demonstration that tariffs very strongly work, and I hope other things also, but the tariffs are bringing them in at levels that have not been witnessed.
Yeah, so not have been. Yeah, so and again, this is just only a few weeks in, and we're already seeing these huge deals here. So right now, I'm going to jump over to our locals. I'm going to show you this particular article we did. If I can pull it up quickly, it's essentially going to be talking about how we can get this thing back in a very, very short time period. Yeah, here we go. So here's the actual article. I'm going to share this here. So this is our proposed plan to end the IRS, balance the budget, and create a $1 trillion surplus. This is something we've done a few weeks back. We may have to tweak it again because there's new information that's going on. But this was just from literally about 3 weeks ago, give or take. So let's take a look at this. And I'll go down to the bottom because I've already covered this in extent. But the crux of this is implementing a fair tax, which they have not announced yet. He did announce, well, at least the Treasury Secretary talked about having a tax-free bracket for anyone making under $150,000 a year. That's something that I think they're going to try and put in the initial budget for the end of this year, which whether it be one bill or two bills, but that spending bill is going to be huge. If that's included in this, I have to reassess this because there's been no talk of a fair tax. But the point is, there's ways to make this money work for us. So let's skip the fair tax aspect of it. But eliminating $2 trillion in deficit using Doge and gold cards, that's a big deal here because you can save. If you have right now, the U.S. holds about 261 million ounces of gold, around 14 trillion. If we were to sell 2 million gold citizenships at 5 million each, that's 10 trillion in revenue. 10 trillion. And if you were to eliminate the Doge and the energy, unleashing natural gas and fracking, expanding fracking natural gas production could generate 500 billion plus in annual GDP growth. Exports from liquefied natural gas could bring in $300 billion in trade surpluses, and redirecting energy jobs back to the U.S. reduces unemployment and strengthens domestic supply chains. So here at the bottom here, we have a chart, a timeline more or less, of how this could look within 10 years. And so, again, this needs to be adjusted based on new information. But just goofing around and going with this, you see here that the current 2025 federal taxes are about 4.6 trillion income, and our deficit is about 2 trillion and 2 trillion annually. By 2028, if we would implement the fair tax, we'll leave that there aside because that's not going to be probably on the docket. But let's just keep that there for now. But if we were to reduce the deficit to just 1 trillion, then all of a sudden, by 2032, our deficit is essentially eliminated in just 8 years. Actually, that'd be that'd be 8 years. So it'd be 25 plus 8 years. And then if you were to take it to an additional 2 more years there, the surplus, we have a $1 trillion annual surplus if you just to project that going forward further. That's just with the deficit. Energy revenue, same thing there, 1.5 trillion plus. Our debt will be eliminated just from the gold card revenue alone. If we were to sell 2 million, which is, I know that's pretty ambitious, but it's feasible. That alone would take out the deficit, and our debt would be totally gone. And then we're running out of about a $40 trillion GDP, which is about not quite double what we have now. And that's the path that this administration is going on, which I think is absolutely fantastic. And what's also interesting is how the media is just totally dead silent on all of this. It's really just absolutely, to me, ridiculous that that this administration isn't getting the credit that it's getting right now so far. So let's talk about a little bit here about what's going on in the news. I'm going to pull up my and I actually want to go to Rapid Response and check them out because they have a pretty good. Let's go there actually first. Rapid Response 47 is the White House X page, which basically tries to put stuff out there to counterbalance the false narratives that are out there constantly. So they're constantly posting stuff and trying to set the record straight. And since we're on the topic of new companies coming in, let's see what they're saying here about Hyundai coming in and the tariffs. This is posted about 47 minutes ago. So let's
tariffs work. And President Trump is proving that every single day when new companies from around the world are pledging to invest billions of dollars in the United States of America and our workforce. Today, we had Hyundai announcing $20 billion in American investment, $5 billion in the great state of Louisiana to build a steel plant. Why? Because President Trump has implemented a 25% tariff on steel. And he has told companies around the world that America is open for business. And you won't face any tariffs if you bring your production to the United States. You will have low taxes, low energy costs, and you will have the best workforce in the world. You will hire American workers. And so every single one of these investments, the American people need to understand this is more money coming into your community. This is your home town where you grew up, rising again. Where your neighbors are having good paying jobs, where more money is going back into your pockets. And every time you go to the store to purchase a product, you're no longer seeing made in China on the back. You are seeing made in America on the back. That's President Trump's vision with these tariffs, and every day proving that they work and making America wealthy again.
One thing I like about the press secretary, what she'll do is she actually positions herself in a very, very
tariffs work in
a very, very authoritative and patriotic way. She'll walk to the camera with the Capitol in the backdrop, or in this case, with the American flag waving in the background. Everything with this administration is strategic in terms of optics and marketing what they're trying to sell. And here we have where Hyundai, again, will invest $21 billion in the U.S. from 25 to 28 to expand its footprint across manufacturing, supply chains, and future mobility sectors. And one thing I'll say here quickly is that one thing that Trump has been able to do in terms of getting a lot of these big businesses in to this country, even though they may not be for Trump, they may not be MAGA, they may not be companies that aligns at all with conservatism. What Trump was able to do in his framing of the economy in America, and what he's doing is he is leaning to their, or he's aiming at their bottom line, because businesses basically they talk about making a profit. It's a fiduciary duty for a publicly held company to give the shareholders the best dividends or profits they could possibly do. That's their responsibility. And these CEOs and these corporations, they want to make money end of the day. So you heard the saying, money talks and BS walks. Well, that's what's happening. And Trump basically said, look, you guys might not like me, but we can all get rich off this. Okay. We can get rich. We can make this country rich. You can get rich. And by all means, get as rich as you possibly can. That's the message. That's the message. And ideologically, they may be like, well, what about this regulation? Or what about this fish here that's endangered? Or what about this regulation here that's this? Or what about this? What about this? They'll say that from an intellectual standpoint. But at the end of the day, it's about the money. And if you're going to give them permission to make as much money as they possibly can make, well, then they're going to be on board. They're going to be on board. And that's what Trump is saying. We are open for business. Make as much money as you possibly can for your company, because it's going to benefit this country. And that is the Trump economy at its to me, at its lowest common denominator. Make money, we'll make money. And for the consumer, that's going to help you, because we're going to allow you to spend more money, because we're going to put more money in your pocket. How are we going to do that? We're going to lower your taxes, and you'll see more of your paycheck. How do you pay for that? You pay for that, like I said before, this proposed plan to end the deficit in 10 years and give us a surplus in 10 years. That's how it's done. It's done in a holistic, all-effort attack at this thing. It's not one or two areas. It's everything. Because if more money comes in, we can lower taxes because we're rich. If we're rich, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Before we had the income tax in this country, President McKinley was using tariffs, in this country was using tariffs to bring most of our money into this country. Once we had the federal income tax, the tariffs were no longer that much of a revenue stream for America. And I have not verified this yet, and I'm looking through a book right now that I'm reading, and I believe this is correct. I can't find this actual source out yet, but that the federal income tax was essentially brought to America through people, lobbyists, communists, whoever they were, into our system of government to influence congressional leaders to pass a national income tax so that they could alleviate the burden that other countries were paying this country, because we were making so much money and they weren't. So if you can raise your own money through your own income, it takes the burden off of the international companies so that they can have a breath and that they can make money on their own, which I would think would be the beginning of the modern day globalism that we're seeing now. So, yeah, but that's really something that that needs to be really talked about more. So, okay, let's go back to the rapid response here. Yeah, Hyundai was a big news issue today. We have a new Secretary of the Navy, confirmed today, 62 to 30. All right, let's take a look at this. So this is Trump tariffs are working. These are some clips here of some headlines. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, so this is a good graphic. So we have Rolls Royce is planning to shift production to the United States to avoid Trump tariffs. That's from Breitbart. Wall Street Journal has Johnson & Johnson to invest $55 billion in U.S. in the next 4 years. $55 billion. Investing.com. Merck opens $1 billion vaccine facility in North Carolina. I'm not big on that, but hey, it's money. Just don't force it on anybody. That's all I say. Just don't force it on anybody. CNBC says Eli Lilly plans at least $27 billion in new U.S. manufacturing investments. Fox Business says AI chipmaker NVIDIA to invest billions in U.S. amid Trump onshore push. Reuters reporting that South Korea Hyundai, we just said that, $20 billion in U.S. investment and a new steel plant, which, by the way, is really, really important. Steel. Semaphore has UAE pledges $1.4 trillion investment in the U.S. That's incredible. And CNN Business reports that Trump announced a $500 billion AI infrastructure investment in the U.S. And this is all within the past few days. Incredible stuff. And we're not done yet. So let's check this another one. Apple, Fox Business says that they will invest $500 billion investment in U.S. manufacturing innovation. Wall Street Journal says that TSMC, the chip maker, will be investing $100 billion in the U.S. And Honda will produce the next Civic in Indiana. That's coming from Reuters, not Mexico, due to U.S. tariffs, sources say. So yeah, I recommend you guys check out the rapid response on X. It's really good stuff here. Yeah, not familiar with here. It looks like it's I can't pronounce it. He's Greek. Epaphoros of America presents President Trump with a holy cross. Listen to this.
This emperor, your dear Mr. President, is the one who founded and built the magnificent city of Constantinople, my birthplace, known today as Istanbul. It is my great honor to present you with this holy cross. This cross is the very symbol that led this great Roman Emperor Constantine to victory. As Christ revealed to him in a vision, he said, "En tuto nica," told the emperor, means go with this and be victorious, Mr. President. This cross is an everlasting symbol of peace and an invincible trophy, a sign of divine strength and guidance. With this cross, I pray you bring peace to the world and make America invincible.
Wow. cool is that? I think we saw this here. This is from the cabinet meeting. We won't do that again. We won't do that again either. Yeah, the news day today is essentially going to be the tariffs and the economy. I want to show you this right here. This is from Rob Lowe. We're kind of getting off a little bit, but this is kind of getting back to what we're talking about in terms of the Snow White deal in Hollywood in general, and how I wanted to talk about this a little bit because not that I care about Hollywood. I used to care a lot about movies at one point, but not so much anymore. But listen to what Rob Lowe has to say about this. And I'm watching The West Wing right now. I'm binge watching it. I've been watching it for the past month or so. I'm on season 4, and Rob Lowe is on the cast, and he is a deputy communications director. Essentially, he writes the scripts or the scripts and also the speeches for the president and the president's staff and stuff like that. And he gets in front of the camera and does whatever. But he's a high up in the West Wing. And so that was one of the greatest shows in the history of American television. He was on that show for 4 seasons. He was also in other major productions in the 80s. He's been around a long time. He's produced his own stuff. He's well known, and I believe he's a closet conservative. But with that knowledge, listen to what he has to say about Hollywood and where it is right now in terms of where it's going.
It's interesting that you shoot the floor there.
It's cheaper to bring 100 American people to Ireland than to walk across the lot at Fox.
Right.
Past the sound stages and do it there.
Crazy. Do you think if we shot Parks right now, we would be in Budapest?
100% we would be. We'd be in Budapest. We would be.
It's so weird. There's nothing shoots in Los Angeles.
Nothing. I had my next show already done, scripts, deals closed.
Yeah.
And they said, we're shooting this in New York. And I said, I'm not moving to New York to do this.
Yeah.
And then it went away. The show's done. I'm not doing it. Wow. It's like,
no shit.
Yeah, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it.
It's just too expensive to shoot here.
There are no tax credits. So like all those other places are offering 40%.
Yeah.
40%.
Oh, yeah.
And then on top of that, there's other stuff that they do.
Yeah.
And then that's not even talking about the union stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's just tax economics of it all. So it's criminal what the California and LA have let happen. It's criminal. Everybody should be fired.
It's a bummer. We have our office on Radford lot where we used to shoot Parks.
Yes.
And it is quiet over there.
Quiet.
That place, when we were shooting our show,
bustling.
Oh my God, every stage was filled and working, and it's really weird.
Super, super weird. I love that little lot.
Me too.
So that's basically that is Rob Lowe talking about Hollywood and how it's gone downhill. I mean, in terms of production, how it's cheaper to take 100 people to Budapest and film there versus going across the street, across the soundstage to a back lot in Hollywood and do that because of whatever they have going on over there. That's incredible. And how the production on those backlots are way low in terms of where it was 15 years ago or so. And this is just indicative to California. It's indicative to any city, county, township that is run by a liberal mindset. It's unsustainable. And, I don't know how Gavin Newsom expects to do anything politically with this kind of a record. So it really is a tragedy what's going on with our country in terms of our entertainment segment, where it used to be fun to go to the movies. It used to be affordable to go to the movies. Now, going to the movies is priced out of the marketplace. Going to the movies shouldn't be as expensive as going to, let's say, the opera or seeing the orchestra or seeing, a Broadway play. If you take your 4 kids and buy food and, and drinks, it shouldn't cost a comparable amount as going out to something like that. It's a movie. It's on a screen. It shouldn't cost that much. And with 4K, with, the super deluxe Dolby enhanced sound systems they have now that anyone can have in their own homes, the clarity is going to be better. The sound's going to be just as good. And if it's something that you don't want to see, if the movie sucks, if you're streaming it, you can just pause it, stop it, whatever you want to do with it, and do something else. But if you go to a movie theater and pay $80 to see this film, and it sucks halfway through, the only thing you can do is stay there and take it, or do the walk of shame out the theater, and you're out $80, and you feel like a schmuck. So that's what's happening. Disney is making films that only cater to a certain ideology, and they want to force upon people who have values that are different than a leftist, secularized, humanist mindset, and just kicking those people to the curb. So now you take a crowd that would have been of 100, you're taking that crowd of 100 that would have maybe seen the movie if it was let's say, a 4-quadrant film, young, old men and women. Now from 100, you're taking it down to about 40 people. If you're lucky. If it's really insane, maybe 20 people out of that 100. So now, looking at that spreadsheet I had before, how are you going to make a profit? Especially if a lot of those are overseas. You have to make that profit here in America. And America is where wokeism is really being hit the hardest in a lot of these films, because for some reason, I guess the left thinks that, we need to be preached to more here in America, because America is the big bad evil. And that's what's happening. It's a law of diminishing returns. And Hollywood is suffering from that, which I really don't care. It's a cesspool. It's fine. You can make movies in other places, decentralize it from Hollywood. You'll probably get a much better return outside of the state of California. As Rob Lowe said, you can even go overseas and get a better rate of return. So, but that whole model is just replicated across various sectors of other things as well, not just movies, sports as well have suffered. And I think what's happening is what we're going to see, and we've seen this in NC2A in particular, pulling back this woke DEI, CRT, racist, sexist agenda, and allowing people to say, hey, okay, I get it. You think you have X number of genders beyond 2. Fine. You think that 1619 was the start of a slave-driven country and it was built on slavery. Fine. That's what you want to believe. You want to believe that, that the environment, if we have plastic straws, we're all going to die tomorrow. Okay, I get it. All right, we have to have paper straws. I get it. We get your ideology. However, do you want to make money or not? Can you just, for the next, let's say 4 years, as long as he's in office, at least, can you at least make as much money as you possibly can and make good movies, or make a league that doesn't bend the knee at halftime or before, or jeopardize, or allow men to smash volleyballs in little girls' faces, or I said before, have the flag be disrespected. Can we not do that? Bring some people back, have them in the stands, have them watch commercials at home as it's being aired, ad revenue coming in, seats being filled, people buying merchandise because they like the product and because the product is not preaching to them. That's the model. Making money. And I don't care who you are. You can be the most crazy liberal out there. You got to pay the bills. And money, making money, is actually pretty fun. It's much more fun than losing money. So that, I think, is what Trump is trying to do at the baseline. You might not agree with me, but can we at least agree that we want to make money? And because Trump is who he is, what he's doing, he's so bombastic in his policies and his approach in his marketing, he's giving people the permission, even if you don't like him, to do the right thing. So that's what I think. That these companies that like Apple coming in, not Apple, the Bezos, how he went to the Washington Post, a paper in which he owns, and said, we're going to go to conservative editorials. We're going to do more things on a moderate level. And people just lost their minds and quit on Washington Post. Or Zuckerberg getting ahead of the curve before Trump even got in office, start to moderate himself and say, hey, Biden made me do it. He made me censor, and getting ahead of it because he knew, that at the end of the day, they're going to have to figure out a way to make this thing sustainable. And going to the left and losing that 60, 70, or 80 out of every 100 person is not something they want to do, and they'll lose money and they'll go out of business. So that's essentially what those companies are doing, and what Trump has actually given people permission to do. So let's keep going here. There's something that happened this weekend I want to show. I can't show all of it, I'm sure, because I'll probably get blocked because of copyright. But there was a wrestling match that happened. The NC2A had a wrestling tournament for the national championship. And I don't have it here. It doesn't look like it. Let me find it real quick. Let me look up. This is a good story. So, can you see? You can't. So here, close it out. Close it. So President Trump was actually, where was it? I believe. This is the NC2A Wrestling Championship in Philadelphia. And this is Trump coming into the crowd. I think on the 22nd, so this must be on Saturday? Still sound on this? I don't hear anything on this. So so he came into this to watch the other, and there's one particular wrestler in the championship. His name is Wyatt Hendrickson. He's a second lieutenant in the U.S. Air Force, and he ended up beating a guy named, I think his name is Gabe. I'm not sure. I don't know, but his name is Gabe. 2 years. Not only lost, he had been taken down in terms of like 3 points in wrestling in like 2 years, and defending gold medalist in the Olympics. And so this gentleman ended up winning the gold and winning the championship with Trump there, and did it in the last 30 seconds, where he was actually behind by 2 points. He ended up getting a takedown, the first takedown this guy had ever received in the past 2 years. And his name was, yeah, and he ended up winning the match. It was absolutely incredible. And why is my audio not coming in? I can't see my audio here. Why is it not coming in? I hear nothing. Well, I can't hear the audio, guys. I hope this can. Nope, it's not coming in. Here he says, I'm sure you can hear it or not, but if you can hear it, great. If not, I'll just read it. He says, I want to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. This is Wrestler Wyatt Hendrickson. Gives glory to God after defeating Olympic gold medalist Gable Stevenson at the NC2A Wrestling Championships. It was fantastic, guys. You should check it out. You can watch 8 minutes long. He was supposed to be there for the match. He knew the guy from another point. He had met him a couple years before, and he told the guy, he told the staff, "I'm not going to leave. I got to watch my big guy. I got to watch my guy wrestle." And he ended up again pulling it out. They're calling it the greatest. They're calling it the greatest upset in history. Here it is, right here. So he's gaming. There it is. The referee comes in, holds up 3 fingers right there, and that's it. So 10 seconds left, or actually 15 seconds left, and he holds on to the end, ends up winning 4-5. And then in a good yes, points him out. That's awesome. And before that, Gabe, the guy, was actually talking trash to him because he came in before the match. He had the American flag, and then the other wrestler was stalking him and was talking trash to him. And I think after the match, they asked him, what did he say? And he said that he was basically saying that I'm the gold medalist. You haven't done anything yet, so you shouldn't be carrying the flag, acting like that. So, but it didn't matter. He ended up taking him out, and that was it. So with that, guys, I am going to call this a wrap. I appreciate everybody who came on here to check us out. Rabbi and Jay Red, appreciate it very much. So with that, guys, I'm going to call this a end here. And if you guys want to check us out on Locals. If you go to Rumble, to our site on Rumble, go to join, and there you'll see a join button, and there you can sign up there for us. It's our pay site, which we don't no longer use YouTube. So if you go on Rumble, I'll show you right here. I can do a quick share. Let's do that real quick. So right here, you'll see the join up there. Click on the join button. It'll bring up a screen. And here, all you have to do, is just click on support, and then you can just follow the prompts there. It'll take you to that. If you want to do it for free, what you can do is you can actually click on, I think I have a banner set up for that as well. We have a free option. You don't have to pay if you want to get on. Let me show you that real quickly. If I go to my banners and click on here, go to conservativetake.locals.com, the conservativetake.locals.com/register, and there you can sign up for free and no problem. If you want to be a supporter for free, you can do the same thing I said before with Locals and actually put in the code Brandon, and you will get 1 month free as a supporter and all the paid content we have out there. So with that, guys, thank you so much for everything you do. I appreciate it. And I will see you tomorrow. And tomorrow, I think we're going to talk about the election and the primaries. And we're going to talk about how California and a couple other blue states, I believe Wisconsin, well, not so much blue anymore, but Minnesota, I believe, California, and one other, I think New York, are all losing electoral college votes. And California will be losing 3 electoral college votes once the new census comes out. And it's going to be huge in terms of this realignment that we're seeing. In fact, California, in a lot of ways, is going to go more red than it did in 2024. And it could eventually be red by 2032, in my opinion. California could literally flip in about 8 years. And that would be incredible. So, because what Trump is doing, not only from taking all the issues that the left typically owned in terms of blue collar, working class, young people, that's now in the Republican column. The rich oligarchs, which you see Bernie Sanders talking about, blaming the rich and all that. Well, guess what, guys? That is now the Democrat donor base. Those people are the oligarchs. So AOC and Bernie Sanders are trying a message that is unattainable because the rich oligarchs are the Democrat elites, the Hollywood rich elites, the big ag, the big pharmas people. They're all bought and paid for and fully funded by those organizations, and they all go into the Democrat Party at a rate of about 65 to 75%. No longer is the Republican Party the rich party or the elite party. The Republican Party now is a party of the middle class, the working class, the average Joe, the low propensity voter. That's what it is. And the map for Democrats looks horrible. And the civil war that's coming is going to be devastating. Bernie Sanders just said that, hey, I think Trump is doing some good things on the border. He's moving away from that establishment side of the party that wants, in some ways, that's not establishment. Yes, it is establishment because they want to have the immigration come in. So yeah, it's kind of mixing what they actually believe in terms of establishment versus radical left. It's whatever. Gavin Newsom, who's an utter leftist, is trying to move to the middle, but it's not really working for 2 reasons. One, no one believes him. And number 2, the 20-30% of the radicals are coming at him, attacking him, and taking him down because they don't like it. So essentially, we have an ideological civil war going on in the Democrat Party. The Democrat established elites, like the Mitch Schumers and those guys, the Pelosi's, believe it or not, she's not as radical as you think, and the radical base, the squad, AOC, Bernie Sanders, and people of that nature. And they want to keep that section, a radical environmentalist section, that DEI section, that CRT, white man bad section of the party, reparation, that Marxist leftist, insane side, they're loud, they're vocal, and they're not going to give up the so-called progress that they've made and gained over the past 80 years. They're not. We have an article on that on Local. So if you join that, you'll see that as well. It's free, but it's still out there for you to see about why the 5 reasons why the Democrat Party is not going to be able to rebrand itself in the next 3 to 4 years. It may take 20 years based on where they're going. So it'd be interesting to find out what happens. But tomorrow we will talk about the elections, talk about the polling, the election map, and why the Democrats are in deep trouble and why Trump, all he has to do is do what he says he's going to do. He's going to stay popular. And with what J.D. Vance now is doing, he's now the finance chair, I believe, of the RNC. That's going to put him in contact with all the donors. So he already has a foothold onto the nomination. And it's going to be bad news for Democrats for the next 15, 20 years. I mean, unless something drastic happens, I don't see it. But, we've seen this happen before in the past with the Democrat Party becoming a minority party right around the abolitionists, right around the Reconstruction era, the rise of the Republican Party, minus Grover Cleveland for those 2 terms he did. But outside of that, it was the Republican Party. Then they became establishment. They became swampy. They became country club, only to be kicked out with Truman and FDR had come in, the Depression. And so then they dominated for 60, 70 years. And then you had, of course, 94. Gingrich comes in with the Republican Party, taking the House back for the first time in that many years. And then so it goes ebbs and flows. But there are big gaps in there. And I think we can see a big realignment gap happening right now where the Democrat Party becomes obsolete, segmented, fragmented, and unable to win a national election. So with that, guys, thank you so much, and I'll see you tomorrow.